right, here we go. Dolphins, final exam, if you want to call it. 8 weeks to justify the 6-3, all the investments to win this division with the lead they have is all starting with the Raiders. So there's a bunch of information that came out today, maybe yesterday and today. I'm going to put it all together. I'm going to try to be as succinct, but yet cover it as thoroughly as I can. I feel a lot of the media stuff out there now is just so succinct. It's like these one-liners and, throw one stat up there. And it could sound so good. It's like a used car salesman, but it's not generally accurate. And a lot of times people who say certain things after they're no longer proved to be true, that just disappears and they're not held to task. So the things I want to talk about today is the O-line, a lot of O-line talk about from the Dolphins and injury stuff. I'm going to talk about that ties into that. Fangio talked about the DL, the interior of the D-line. I think that's very interesting. I'm going to do a soft Raiders prep. I'm going to talk about a few stories that are out there that kind of tie into the Dolphins. And fans of football, fans of the Dolphins, have to remember this story as it ties to the past, or these three stories as it ties to the past. And it's just so difficult to remember the past while you're embracing today and thinking about tomorrow. But that's what really good journalism does, and good purveyors, viewers, fans of information do. So savvy a little bit there, a little long of the mouth on my part. Anyway, so let's get right into it. Remember in, 2021, we don't get Watson, we're doomed. Watson's on IR. Season's kaput. 2 seasons in his unbelievable, guaranteed $250 million contract. Dead in the water. All those picks gone. Just imagine if they didn't sign him and they went in another direction. All those picks to add to the team they have right now, which is excellent. But we were told that Watson was the answer, sell everything for it, and Tua is the problem. Now, I'm not saying Tua's going to lead us to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. But clearly, I could put my foot in the ground and say the Watson deal to Miami would have been like, 72 black eyes and then like a line of 1,000 people kicking you in the groin. That's what it would have looked like. It would have been total meat grinder dysfunction for a team already in the thick of dysfunction. So it is wonderful we didn't go that route. I won't get into the whole deal of who wanted him, but clearly, thankfully, he's not here. Tua was the better option, and that part of the story is now finished. You could say give it 3 more years, but if we look at the Dolphins, where would they be in 3 more years? They would not have this build. Right now is the moment, and Watson is not the guy for us. So now on the injury front, Hunt doesn't look like he's going to play this week. I'm really desperate for him to be in against the Jets next week. I don't know. Week to week, we'll see. I think it's critical for him to be in that short week to go against the Jets. Win still out from 3 yards per carry. He's a real smart guy. Great show. Check it out. He said he thinks Wynn's done for the season. I think that might be, unless it's a postseason return or something. Jones looks like it's going to be a longer thing. So this looks like Eichenberg will be left guard. Some people think center, and move Connor to the left guard spot. But if you listen to McDaniel today, he said, the same thing I've been saying. This guy's only been doing it 2 years, and his blocking is like top 5 type, top 6, and a lot goes into it. This guy's working real hard, and maybe his snaps aren't the best, but if you actually honestly look at it, Tua's made some mistakes into it, and you've got to understand, this team would not be the same without him in center. You put Eichenberg there, and your zone stretch is kaput. You separate Hunt and Connor, who are unbelievable together. That chemistry would not be the same in the zone stretch or when you're running inside zone. So a lot would be mitigated, muted, and basically cut out without him at center. And so like I showed, I said I could show though if I really had to, he snaps in the direction he goes, and Tua's got to take account of it. If he doesn't want to, there's going to be problems. And then if he wants another center, there's going to be problems. So this is what we got this season. This is what the team designers built. And so I think McDaniel's running with him till season's end at the very least. Claypool hasn't been practicing. Craycraft's back. And Achane looks like he might be back. And this is a big deal. If you remember, Craycraft, who sat in that slot and had some nice blocks, come down blocks on his outside linebackers, create space for Tehran to get out there and do his thing. And in that space is where Achane was able to pop. And this is not a good run defense with the Raiders. We need to run that football. And so this is a great sign that these two guys are coming back. Got to see with Cotton and Eichenberg in there what can happen, but I got to believe at certain points there will be space, and Achane and Craycraft, hopefully back together again, will create some extra space there. Craycraft will, and then Achane can pop it. Now, we got to see though if they'll both come back, but it's not certain, but I think it might be. So Dan Campbell's a guy we all love. Any football player, football fan loves him, and I think any Dolphin fan loves him. This is what Dan Campbell said. Do not ever feel bad about a win, man. They're too hard to come by. You earned that win. We're 6-3. I don't want to hear anything other than we're 6-3. Now, in context, there's things to look at and try to extrapolate that out to the negative side going forward. But then there's things within that to extrapolate to the positive going forward. Bottom line, we're 6-3. Can't apologize ever for it. You got to say, hey, you know what? Achane had say maybe a 13-yard per carry on a game, and they're the worst defense in the league. You got to say, hey, let's split the difference and go to 6 or something. And I think that's fair. But this 6-3 was earned. Got to earn the rest. But I like Dan Campbell, so I'm going to listen to him. So let me get into the Raiders soft prep. I'm going to get into the offensive line, and I'm going to get to Fangio. Before I do that, I want to let you know, doing a live tomorrow night. It's going to be the hard prep for the Raiders. I think this is going to be a good game. I think the Dolphins should win. I'm not saying they're going to because anything can happen. I think they should win. Everything is, in their favor. Not everything, but it's set. The table's set for them. They're home. They've had a bye week. They're a more talented team. So they should win. So I'm going to do a big prep tomorrow night at 6 p.m. 10 p.m. Friday night. And then I'm going to come back on Jedi Sports Network, 6 p.m. Saturday. All the guys are going to talk about their different teams in the AFCs and cover this week, week 11, week 10, this week and last week of the NFL. So anyway, like, subscribe, all that stuff means everything. The comments, guys, all that feeds the algorithm, guys, that keeps me doing this thing. So I want to give you guys a shout out, and a shout out to Ace Per Head, because without the two of you, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, Fangio was talking today. I thought it was a little interesting. He talked about why don't you rotate the DTs? And he said usually most teams will rotate the D linemen a lot. We're low on D linemen, so we don't do it as much, Vic Fangio said. And then another thing, there was a talk that Akeem Hicks had been brought up to Chris Greer, but Chris Greer's just it's been a while, and he didn't want any part of that. I think this is an interesting story to play out because he did also mention that this lack of rotation is going to kind of tire out these guys as the season progresses. And if you look at the teams we're playing, a lot of inside running, a lot of physical play. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. We do need more D linemen. Will it come into play? Will it not? Why wasn't Akeem Hicks signed? I don't know. Would have been a right move. He's long in the tooth. Maybe he wanted too much money. I don't know. I just think this was a very interesting story that we should all pay attention to because NFL is not one game. It's this whole season of the body taking the shots. And, yeah, you might be hot to trot in the first early goings, but towards the end, how are the bodies of the team? How are they responding to this constant abuse? It's a marathon, and it's because of their physical abuse. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out. Now, the Raiders, Colton Miller has practiced today, and he's good. It's a big up for them. They've got a quality offensive line, and they're going to need it because obviously the quarterback situation isn't hot to trot, and we've got a pretty good front. So, but Colton Miller is a big swing towards their direction. Obviously, we have some of our swings with injuries and some swings to the negative. Now, they signed Jack Jones, pretty good corner for the Patriots. He got cut for this, that, and the other thing. But Antonio Pierce has had a really long relationship with him. And this is a good secondary, and they brought him in. I don't know how many snaps he's going to get, but he'll probably play a little bit. And so this is going to also help their secondary. Now, the last bonus for them that we got to keep it on mind that this is going to be a tough game is the word is Harbaugh would be interested in the Raiders. And this team likes Antonio Pierce. And when you get a talk of that, it really says that Antonio Pierce can't just have a middling success. He's got to have a rousing success, or maybe Harbaugh might take it. And they really like this guy. They really, really, and so that's going to give them the desire to play harder and to play more ferocious. I'm not saying it's going to flip the scales, but it does tick it up forwards to keep in mind. Now, they play heavy zone. Man's been a problem for us because that slowing down of the clock and getting it into that 2-4 range plus has brought pressure on us. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do because if they just run flat zones, we're going to get into those zones real quick with Tua, and he's going to pop it in there, and I think these guys are going to get it lit up unless they're getting up and being physical, slowing it down and dropping. I got to do my research. I'll have that done by tomorrow. Patrick Graham getting a lot of talk. They've only had 3 touchdowns allowed over 35 attempts. But the last 3 teams, this is why the statistics are a little not, accurate, is they played Detroit, who would have gave up 2 touchdowns, 1 in the air and 1 on the ground. And that's a tough offense with a good offensive line. That's a quality showing. But then they played the Giants and they played the Jets. And so 2 out of 3 is bad. And so this pass defense, when you look at what they did with Detroit, is a little nerve-wracking. But overall, they've had 3 poor teams. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, last, I love the offensive line. Here's a bunch of little news and notes that I'm going to get into. Now, I want you to remember that Dave Hyde said McDaniel has done a great job this year masking some offensive line issues without Teron and Connor. Tough to hide issues against a line like Philly. This offensive line has done what it's asked, but it hasn't been asked a lot. But clearly, McDaniel, Tua, Waddle, and Hill, their ability to attack quickly at depth has helped this offensive line quite a bit. It will be interesting to see as when this time to throw rises, how will they play out. Now, Butch Barry, you can see here, Dolphins from Omar Kelly, Dolphins offensive line coach. Butch Barry thinks Liam Eichenberg's experience at center will make him a better guard. Will be very interesting. He had a nice little tail end of last week or 2 weeks ago against KC. Will it play out? We'll get to see. I'm not saying Barry's right or he's wrong, but you got to remember what people say and then play it back. Nobody gets everything right, but you got to take the overall soup and say, is the overall soup this way or that way? So that one will be a very, very interesting one. But I'm getting this thing here, Joe Shad, Dolphins legend Butch Barry. And I tie that in to what David Hyde said. Is this offensive line supporting the skills or the skills supporting the offensive line? We'll find out over the next 8 weeks, but it's good to remember certain things, what's been said. Now, problem we got is, remember, Chris Greer was laughing at the depth of our offensive line. He was like, you fans are more worried than us. Well, Dolphins O-lineman coach Butch Barry said Miami's forcing tackles to play guard in practice out of necessity. It's uncomfortable for guys like Kendall Lamb, but it's for the greater good. Now, I did my last podcast. I said Lamb at left guard. It was because I heard they were cross-training him. That was just from a skill set standpoint. But out from 3 yards per carry, one of the better media guys out there, I really like him. I like the show too. Said that Lamb just doesn't want to do it because he doesn't feel like he can help the team. But they're getting that desperate. Now, some of it is injuries that he can't control. But again, you go into the season with 8 linemen, one of them in Wynn who always gets injured. Really, you're only down to 7, plus Tehran, who always gets injured. You're down to 6. So the depth was a problem because they're getting desperate. And somebody I was talking to in the comments, a great point is, if he moves inside, he has a higher chance to get hurt because it's way more grindy in there. And you don't want Lamb getting hurt because he has played excellent for us in the pass game on the edges. So that's another note. And you can see here, they're getting desperate. They got Andrew Norwell, who I used to be really good, but he, Colby Gossett, and Wes Martin, 2 guys who had some success, but they were trying them out of guard, which kind of says, I think they're a little concerned about next week, Hunt making it, or maybe they're trying to do due diligence in case somebody gets hurt this week. That's how thin we are. We're extremely thin at this position. It's going to, this offensive line and blocking unit should play a big part unless the Raiders just try to play that flat zone and Tua, Hill, and Waddle can just get into those zones and milk them and have that 2-2-8 time to throw, a 2-3 time to throw, because Max Crosby's good, but he ain't getting there that quick. But if they can somehow jam, release, or create zones that force Tua into that 2-4 range, Cotton, Jackson, and Eichenberg are going to be at the forefront. And it's going to be interesting to see how Eichenberg and Cotton and Jackson can support this run game with Tehran and Connor. I think the run game is going to be big. I think we win, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it's a, what did Sims call it? Effing storybook thing. These guys have fought hard. They had, a guy that really wasn't supposed to be there, the head coach. You got to give him that credit. I hated when he said stupid stuff about Tua, and I hate his tenor in this take here, guys. This is going to be a tough game. If we earn it, if we get this win, we have earned it. And get ready, it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be an exciting game. And if this offensive line does stand up and has to actually do their job at a fairly high level and does it, great things for the future, guys. Anyway, it's Kurt saying thanks for stopping by. Catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.